cats might be the reason I don't believe in God. Hi besties, welcome. Today, I hope your day feels like when you have a cardigan that's just big enough to like overlap the front flaps and you can feel like a widow looking out the window on a blustery beach day. That was kind of morbid. Today, we're tier ranking movie adaptations of classic literature. So first, let's go through the rankings. First, we have Who Needs the Book? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the movie is better than the book, but it does mean you don't feel like there's anything missing. It's whole, it's complete, it's fantastic. Watch it on repeat. Second is Stands the Test of Time. You know, this movie is kind of a classic in its own right. While it's not S tier and the book is still probably better, it's a good movie on its own. Next is I'm not mad that I watched it. I don't feel like I wasted precious moments of my life I can never get back. Next is Not Worth the Price of Admission. Movies that fall in this category are movies that I do not think are worth the $2.99 Prime Video rent fee that I would have to pay if I wanted to watch them. Next is The Author is Rolling in Their Grave. Now, this just means what it says on the tin. Whoever worked hard to get their name in the canon of classic world literature would simply be appalled and repulsed by this strange adaptation of their so-called high art. And last, we have a category called cats. I don't think I need to explain. First, we have 10 Things I Hate About You, starring Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. This is based off The Taming of the Shrew by one Mr. Willie Shakes, Mr. Billy Bops, Mr. Squilliam Squakespeare. I'm a diehard Shakespeare stan. The Taming of the Shrew is, in my opinion, one of the worst things he ever wrote. I think that it has persisted in the canon with a lot of tropes about women that are harmful, that are dangerous. We don't love to see it, but we do love to see Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles in their paintball war, because let me tell you, this movie is going straight to the top. Who Needs the Book? I firmly believe that this teen rom-com from the 90s is better than the William Shakespeare play that it's based off of. The entire cast is so star-studded. We've got a tiny Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We've got that guy who plays Bernard, the elf king guy from the Santa Claus movies. You've got that other guy who looks kind of like Slater from Saved by the Bell, but it isn't Mario Lopez. So many great people. Oh, the guy who plays her dad plays Paolo in Princess Diaries.
Heinous bitch is the term used most often.
One of the things I love so much about 10 Things is that they use the original text, but they just like pepper it in moments where the characters are so like overcome with what they're feeling that, you know, our standard modern day 90s English doesn't suffice and they have to transport into this old English.
I burn, I pine, I perish. Of course you do.
But they do such a good job of adapting it and honestly improving it and making some changes that I think were very necessary, because, you know, the whole message of 10 Things is that you can't tame the shrew, and that maybe we shouldn't call her a shrew in the first place, because it's kind of mean. I'm also in love with Heath Ledger in this movie. I don't know if any other human being could pull off this haircut and make it look hot, but he does. Next, we have Alice in Wonderland, the cartoon version. I don't like it. I don't think it has any of the things about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland that make it particularly interesting. It kind of just felt like a lot of people were like, oh, this would be a cool thing to animate. I fell asleep while I was rewatching it for this video. I took a good nap though. For me, it's just not worth the price of admission. Like, I would not pay to rent this. On the other hand, we have Alice in Wonderland the live action Tim Burton version. They took some liberties with the plot of this. In this one, Alice is a little bit older and she's returning to Wonderland. It's much darker. It has that Tim Burton flair that he's known for. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's nearly as good as the book. I'm not mad that I watched it, and that's where it's gonna go. I just saw what was next and I have to steel myself. Cats. Directed by Tom Hooper. There's something frightening about it, and I love a good horror movie. This was the worst movie I've ever seen. Cats is based on a book of poems written by one of my favorite poets of all time, T.S. Eliot. Yes, you heard me correctly. The same brain behind the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock and The Wasteland also is responsible for Cats. T.S. Eliot was a very depressed and troubled man. He was very disillusioned by the Industrial Revolution that was happening around him in early 1900s in America. Therefore, he partook in many substances that altered his headspace, altered his state of mind. It is only from the mind of a man who was tripping on copious amounts of drugs that could have come up with a single word of this heinous piece of art. He deserves jail time, and so does Andrew Lloyd Webber. The effects are bad, the acting is bad, the singing was bad, the music is bad, there is no plot, there is no story. If you told the Lord Creator God that a depressed poet who was upset about the industrialization of the workforce in the 1920s would lead to a furry Taylor Swift seducing a mustachioed James Corden with magic catnip, he would have looked at that and said, humans, not a necessity. It's going in the category cats. Big shocker there. Let's move on because I'm shaken up. Next we have Clueless, a very classic 90s film based on Emma, featuring Alicia Silverstone and a young Paul Rudd. Clueless is a classic in the teen film canon. It's a 90s movie. It reeks of plaid. I think they did a really good job adapting it, and they keep all of Jane Austen's satirical commentary. There are definitely some jokes that did not hold up. It just wasn't a staple in my childhood, so I don't think it has as much of the nostalgia factor as some of these other movies do, but I do definitely think it stands the test of time. I do think they could have made it so that she doesn't end up with her stepbrother. Next we have Easy A. I watched this so much as a kid, based on The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This might be unfair because I haven't read The Scarlet Letter, but everyone I've talked to about it hates it. Easy A is going straight to Who Needs the Book for me because I watched it and never felt like I had to watch Scarlet Letter. And we get Penn Badgley as Woodchuck Todd, and God, if those two riding away on a lawnmower at the end isn't the most romantic thing you've ever seen, then I need you to tell me what is. Next is Emma, based on Emma. This is the 2019 version starring Anya Taylor-Joy. I know this is controversial. Everyone loved Emma. I hated it. I did not like this movie. It took all of the droll, boring parts of Emma that I didn't like in the book and just put pastel colors on them. I love Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's brilliant. I don't think Jane Austen is necessarily rolling in her grave, but I definitely would not watch it again, and I certainly wouldn't watch it again if I had to pay. So it's gonna go ahead and not worth the price of admission. Next we have Baz Luhrmann's adaptation of The Great Gatsby with Leo DiCaprio and Carey Mulligan. People really liked this adaptation, but I think it missed so much of what makes the book The Great Gatsby a classic. They make Gatsby seem so creepy in this movie, and I know in some ways he is a little creepy. Gatsby is supposed to represent the lower class person with an American dream that can work hard enough to achieve anything. And Daisy is supposed to represent this prosperity of wealth and riches that can be gained if someone works hard enough. And the whole point of The Great Gatsby is that even if you work super hard and you get all these things, you're still not guaranteed to be happy, and nobody is guaranteed to succeed. And that people with more money, or people who are born with money, have a much higher chance because they are predisposed to do well. I don't think the movie captured that. I don't think F. Scott would have liked it very much. I think he would have thought they were missing the point. Not my favorite. Next is Les Mis. I really love the musical Les Mis. Like, it's not as good as the stage show because nothing is as good as live theater, but I do think having the actors sing live and some of the directorial choices that Tom Hooper made paid off. I think some of the casting was incorrect. We gotta cast people who can sing in the range of the characters they're playing. That got a little bit lost for Tom Hooper. But I actually think this movie was pretty good. I was obsessed with it when it came out. I went to see it on Christmas Day. The year it came out and I was sitting in the front row. In hindsight, it's not the best, but it's also not terrible. I'm gonna go with I'm not mad I watched it. I don't think it's a classic in its own right. The movie, I think the stage show definitely is. I don't think the movie kind of got quite there. Next we have The Lion King. You're probably like, based on a classic, what are you talking about? The Lion King is based on Hamlet. It's a bit of a stretch, but Simba, you know, is the young troubled teen boy whose father dies and he has to grow up without his father, and then Scar's the evil uncle that's trying to kill Hamlet. That's pretty much where the comparison stops. Lion King is an S-tier movie on its own. However, I don't think it's necessarily a triumphant adaptation. I'm gonna have to go with Stands the Test of Time because Lion King is a classic on its own. I don't think it's necessarily a classic because it's an adaptation of Hamlet, but I can't put it anywhere else. And it's not cats. It's about cats. Does Lion King belong in Cats because it's about cats? No. No, The Lion King stands the test of time. It's a classic on its own. Next we have Both Little Women, 1994 and 2019. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. We're putting 2019 in Who Needs the Book. This is one of the best book to movie adaptations I've ever seen in my whole life. Everybody in this movie is incredible. The cast is amazing. Greta Gerwig directed it like nobody's business. And the slight changes and tweaks that she made to reflect Louisa May Alcott's decision making about writing the book is just, it's chef's kiss. It made me feel the way I feel when I read Little Women, and I think that is the goal of every book to movie adaptation, is to give you the same feeling as when you're reading the book. If that scene on the hill between Laurie and Joe doesn't make me want to vomit because of how perfect it is, nothing does. Now the 1994 one. This one's also really good. I would say this one stands the test of time. Like, I would watch this again. Christian Bale is such a great Laurie. Winona Ryder is such a great Joe. But I definitely think the 2019 one is better. I mean, you put Timothée Chalamet's name on anything and it's gonna be a banger. Next we have Macbeth, the 2015 version with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. I hated this. I hated it so much I didn't even finish it. They whispered the whole time and I didn't understand that, and I thought it was so weird. The direction I just thought was very strange. I didn't like the way Lady Macbeth was portrayed. I think Shakespeare would be rolling in his grave. Like, I think he was like, this is bad. Like, this was bad. Next we have Much Ado About Nothing, the 1993 version with Emma Thompson, Kenneth Branagh, Denzel Washington, Keanu Reeves, Kate Beckinsale, Robert Sean Leonard. Great cast. Directed by Kenneth Branagh. I think it's really good. The actors are all great. It is very theatrical. It felt more than any of these others like I was watching a stage version of a Shakespeare play, which I enjoyed. I'm gonna put Much Ado About Nothing and I'm Not Mad I Watched It. On the other hand, Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing from 2013, I'm gonna put in Stands the Test of Time. It's so much fun. It's literally like Joss Whedon and all of his actor friends, and he like called them up and was like, I want to make a Much Ado About Nothing adaptation, and they just filmed it in his house over the course of a couple weeks, and they use all of the original text. It is an updated, more modern setting. It just feels very casual until it doesn't. Next up I have O, which is an adaptation of Othello that is set in Charleston, South Carolina, which is my home state, and it features Julia Stiles. When I first saw this, when I was looking up like lists of movie adaptations of classics, I saw this on so many lists and I was like, why have I never heard this? It was bad. That's why I haven't heard of it. Like, it was really bad. The stakes don't make any sense. They literally make it so that Iago is not as good at basketball as Othello's character, and so he kills a bunch of other people and then Othello kills himself. I'm gonna put it in the authors rolling in their grave. In the original Othello, like, these people are at wartime, and so they are in the midst of killing people and hurting people, and they have that on the brain. It makes sense that they would jump to those violent ends while they're in the midst of this trauma. It doesn't make sense as much when that trauma is a basketball championship. Next, Pride and Prejudice 2005 starring Keira Knightley. Now, this is going straight to Who Needs the Book. This is a movie that can cure all ailments. Anytime I am wanting to watch a period romance, this is the one I watch because it's perfect. Keira Knightley is perfect as Lizzie Bennet. The guy playing Darcy's a little bit dopey, but like not in a way I'm mad at. I feel like every young woman has that moment in like middle school or high school when they watch this movie for the first time and their life just changes a little bit, tilts on its axis just a little bit. Next we have Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann movie. Now, this film is iconic. It uses the original text, but creates a modern setting. It's like very 80s. Mercutio's a drag queen. Young Leo DiCaprio could... I feel like people are in one of two camps about Romeo and Juliet. Either they think it is a satire about how stupid young people are, or they think it is a romantic tale about the endurance and strength of love. It's both. That is why it's so brilliant. That's why it's one of the most adapted, if not the most adapted works of all time. You know, that's what Rosalind is for, as a plot device to prove that young love is fickle and moves quickly. And I don't think that Shakespeare was saying young people feel too much and they're stupid for it. I think he was saying young people feel so much that sometimes that can be a fatal flaw. And it has a young Paul Rudd who plays Paris. And if you ask Juliet's father if he's enjoying his time with Paris, he would say, "We." I have to put it in Who Needs the Book. I love it so much. My sister did point out when we were watching this the other day that all of the friars in Shakespeare, like, their solution to everything is just like pretend to be dead. But that doesn't seem to work for me when I do it, so. Okay, next we have She's the Man. I don't even need to say it. Who Needs the Book? It's based on Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. It just is nonstop laughs, and so is Twelfth Night. It takes all the hilarity of mistaken identity and love triangles and gender swapping and things that are what make Twelfth Night such a classic, and it just perfectly puts them at this like boarding high school. It also really touches on the commentary of women and men and whether they're equals, and it tackles that through like high school sports. This movie could step on my neck and I'd say thank you. Now, Sierra Burgess is a Loser was bad. I did not like it one bit. I like Shannon Purser. This came out in that pocket of time where Noah Centineo was the white boy of the month.
It matters not what you've done, but what you do with what you've done for others.
This is an adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac. I have not read Cyrano, and if it's anything like this movie, I don't want to. It's a very classically adapted work in which the main character is self-conscious for one reason or another and gets their friend to woo someone for them. But the thing I don't like about this movie is that she does not face consequences for her actions. Like at the end, she's just like, "Oh, sorry, I was self-conscious," and he's like, "Okay, I forgive you." And it's like, no, she lied to him a lot in some really creepy ways. I think the author is rolling in their grave. I don't think this is the point of the story. So this is my final list of the movies I had chosen. So we have reached the end of this tier maker. I'm gonna put the link in the description so that you can go and rank them yourself, because I want to see how you rank them. Please do it. I will have so much fun going and looking at how everybody else ranked them. I want to know what your favorite adaptations of classics are. If you liked Cats, my channel's probably not for you, so I'm sorry to see you go. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Just kidding. Like this video if you feel so inclined. Subscribe, turn on bell notifications, all that good stuff. My camera's about to die, so I have to go. In case you haven't heard it today, I love you. Bye.